Welcome to the Art of Succession podcast with Barrett Young. Join us as we explore the strategies, stories, and insights that shape the journey of leadership transitions and business success. No matter where you find yourself along the journey, this is the podcast where you'll find the tools to make it happen.
So make sure that you're providing them with resources, with counsel, with ways in which they can help their business. If you've lived in California for the last 3, 4, or 5 years, you understand that the insurance marketplace is extremely stressed. So the prior owners really laid out a very strong foundation for us to be able to build on and continue to deliver outstanding customer service.
My name is Barrett Young, and this is the Art of Succession podcast. My guest today is Brando Guerrero, owner of Made in the Shade NorCal. Brando will share his story of entrepreneurship through acquisition after a 17-year career in insurance, buying a franchise from an existing owner about 2 years ago. Brando, welcome to the Art of Succession.
Thank you, Barrett. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
So I want to get started with our discussion. What is it specifically about coming on the Art of Succession and sharing your story? What do you want our listeners to gain most from listening to this episode?
Yeah, I would say that entrepreneurship in any form, whether it's building out or acquiring, is one of challenges, but do not give up. Do not give up. Continue to bet on yourself because those challenges, those struggles are going to make you a better business owner and ultimately help in making you successful.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you so much for being on here. So let's start just a little bit about your employment history. What brought you to the point of saying, I want to leave that all behind and go out into the entrepreneurship world?
Yeah, very fortunate that I had a tremendous, successful, fulfilling career in the insurance industry, 17 years. I worked on the corporate side with some of the larger insurance carriers in the country, Nationwide, MetLife, and Liberty Mutual. And I had a desire to, climb the corporate ladder and take on more responsibilities. And I was relocating every 2-3 years. So I started out in Des Moines, Iowa. I grew up in a small town in central Iowa and eventually was relocated to Hartford, Connecticut. Never once having been to Connecticut, but it was the right opportunity. So of course I loaded up my dad's red Blazer, drove it 22 hours to relocate in Hartford, and fortunate that I did very well there, and then was relocated to New York City and opened up an operation for Nationwide at the time in Queens, New York. Never once having been to Queens, but I knew it was the right opportunity. And after that, I relocated to Jersey City, New Jersey, and I left Nationwide. I went to go work for MetLife and eventually relocated to Rhode Island. And at that time, I'd gotten married, and my wife and I had our first child who was born in Providence. And not too long after that, relocated to New Jersey. And the relocation at this point was a little bit different because obviously I was not a single guy moving from place to place without any second guessing of that decision. And ultimately from New Jersey to California, I was recruited to oversee the Northern California sales organization for Safeco, which is a subsidiary of a Liberty Mutual. And we ended up in San Jose. And like most folks that live in the Bay, it's a great area, don't get me wrong. Cost of living is obviously high. Quality of life, right, depending on what you're looking for, may not be for you. So my wife and I looked at places that we would want to settle down in and continue to grow our family. So we relocated to Roseville, which is just outside of Sacramento. And it was during that time that I started to look at my career differently. Like I said, relocation up to that point hadn't been an issue for me, but now you've got obviously a family and my priorities changed. I was looking to spend more time with my family. I was looking to be more present when I was actually spending time with my family instead of being, in other places mentally. And I was living in Roseville, but I wasn't an actual member of my community, right? Most of my days were spent
commuting to San Jose.
Yeah, so I was fortunate that I, was working from home for the most part, but my travels were really outside of my, home base. And, even when I would travel to visit brokers here locally, it would be, breakfast, meeting, lunch, meeting, maybe dinner, and then back home. I wasn't actually engaged in my community whatsoever. And I really wanted to change that. So I did look to business ownership, right? Hey, I want to be able to actually build out a legacy. I want to be able to potentially grow a business that I would be able to pass on to my children should they choose to go down that path that I did, and actually be a member of my community, getting involved in chambers, different organizations, because that's how when I relocated throughout my career, is how I made friends. Like I moved to places that I'd never been to before, and I needed to have a social life. So I began, joining young professionals groups through the different chambers in the areas, and that's important to me. And the one thing that I've learned is that people will do business with who they know, who they like, but ultimately who they trust. Especially in smaller communities, relationships are everything. So I knew that if I wanted to go down the path of business ownership, I really needed to be an active, engaged, giving member of my community. So a little bit of background there, how I ended up here.
So corporate insurance is different than being like your local Liberty agent, your local State Farm agent. You are supporting those agents who are building up their own book of business, their own small business in their mind or in their worlds.
Correct.
Okay. How much of that interaction with the stuff that goes into entrepreneurship were you having in those various, you're supporting agents, but the agents are already locked in and as customers. Talk to me just a little bit about preparing you for entrepreneurship, how you felt prepared for that.
Yeah, great question. I did it from a couple of different places. When I was an individual contributor, I was directly working with those agency owners on helping them do two things: place more business with the company that I was there representing, or helping them grow their own book of business besides what they were placing with us. Because again, as the pie grows, our slice will continue to get bigger, right? So there were two things that I was doing. And as I became a leader within these larger organizations, I was then coaching my team on how to accomplish those goals. And what I would always tell them is that you need to be a trusted advisor to those agency owners. You need to show up and add value to those relationships. Don't be a Coke and a joke. Don't be the guy or gal that shows up and talks to them about how their weekend was, gives them an agency experience report that shows them how much business they've written with us, what the profitability of that book is, and then say, great, I'll see you next month. Have a good one, right? There's no value there. You could have sent that report through an email. So make sure that you're providing them with resources, with counsel, with ways in which they can help their business either grow, become more profitable, or just become a much stronger business than when you obviously started to work with them. So that's always been part of how I've engaged, really all aspects of my career up to that point. Fast forward, now I'm on the other side of it. So now I'm taking all of the things that I was coaching my teams to go out and support agency owners through. I'm taking those learnings and applying them into my own business. And I also know how to identify effective, you can call them marketing reps, you can call them sales managers, those individuals that are going to be supporting my business in its growth, right? Are you that individual that is going to call me to say, hey, just want to check in, have any questions for me? Great. If not, I'm going to check this off my, to-do list for the day, and then I will call you next month. Versus, hey, Brando, what are your goals for this year? What are you looking to achieve from a revenue perspective? Are you looking to grow your business? Are you looking to expand? Are you looking to bring on more salespeople, more installation people? That's great. If so, how can I help you? Or these are the resources that I have to be able to help you accomplish those goals. So I bring a different perspective from both having been on that side and now being on this side.
Yeah, I definitely want to return to that because I think that that's something that's a challenge. How do you get the most out of the vendors that are trying to sell to you and not just have it be a check-in, but actually get value from that? So you weren't, as that agency rep, you were not responsible for selling to the clients or like closing the deals or anything like that with their own agents, but you were very much in a customer service, convince them to tap into all the resources that you could provide to them. And it sounds like helping with secondary marketing stuff. How do you know your region? What can I do to bring more leads to you so that they ultimately can get the warmer leads to close and bring into the company? So
Yeah, and being able to, even today, right? So again, all of the things that I learned in my prior career, there's so many parallels. And it's also about customer segmentation, right? Now, I don't know if it's a new term, but what I see most often these days is ICP, right? It's that ideal customer profile or that perfect customer persona. For each business, it's going to be different. For each company, that's going to be different, right? So even though every single person might have been out looking for insurance, not every single insurance company is going to want to insure that individual. So you have to understand, right, your customer segmentation. It's the same thing here, right? There are certain manufacturers, vendors that we represent, but each one of them is going to have a different customer persona that is best for them, right? There's somebody that is looking for your most economical option. Great. We have something for you with this particular vendor. Or you're looking for the ultra high-end, customizable, most advanced technology, don't particularly care about the price point. Great. Well, we've got the perfect vendor for you because that is who you are as a customer, right? So not every single customer is going to be a perfect fit for every single vendor relationship that you have, right? And that's, again, something that I've learned that is going to help us become even better at what we do because we understand what each customer truly needs. And we're not just pushing one particular product because not all products fit all customers.
yeah, great. All right, let's talk about the shift into your own search then. What brought just quickly, what is Made in the Shade NorCal and what's the franchise and how does that and then we'll get into how you found it and made that decision and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Made in the Shade is a custom window coverings business. We specialize in making blinds, shades, shutters, outdoor shades effortless. We really do take the time to understand each customer's needs. And we are the only franchise in all of Northern California, which is a phenomenal place to be in. And we are here in Rockland, California, in Placer County, and we service really all of Northern California. We go where the opportunity makes sense. And we have, like I said, a wide-ranging set of vendor options. So unlike a Hunter Douglas gallery, for example, right, they can only sell Hunter Douglas products. We, as an independent, which is funny, another parallel to my insurance world, right? You've got the state farms and then you've got the independent brokers. We represent multiple relationships, which I think is extremely powerful, right? When you talk about how to make sure that you've got the right solution for each one of your customers.
Okay. So did you start with looking for a franchise to buy? Did you start with, I mean, in your mind, I'm going to go out and start a company? I mean, what's going through your mind here as you're making the jump into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, great question. If you live in California, or if you've lived in California for the last 3, 4, or 5 years, you understand that the insurance marketplace is extremely stressed. And I got to a point where I was not as fulfilled in my career as I had been in the past, right? For various reasons, family, being a priority, probably above all. And I knew that if I wanted to really see the benefits of all of the hard work that I am putting in and day out, whether it's evening or weekends, that it's truly going to come to me, right? And not, a larger organization. And I did search for a business to acquire, or, I actually didn't know, right? Do I build something from scratch, or do I go out and just buy something that's already existing? And I happen to be on one of the websites that list different businesses that are available for purchase, and one popped out, and it looked too good to be true. It checked all of the boxes that I was looking for: flexible, work from home, healthy profit margin, just-in-time inventory model. Obviously, you don't have to carry a ton of inventory.
Or showroom or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And when I actually spoke to the individual who had made the post, he was a individual that worked for Made in the Shade corporate. And he spoke to me about the opportunity. I eventually got to meet the owner, and their story made sense. It checked out. But what was more appealing to me is that the amount of growth that this county is going to experience over the next 10, 15, 20 years is mind-blowing, right? I think it's the only county in all of California that is actually experiencing an increase in population, because you're seeing a lot of individuals relocating either out of state, or if they're relocating within the state, they're coming here. So you've got a lot of individuals that are leaving the Bay, they're selling their homes, they're taking a ton of equity out, they're buying homes here. The cost of living is lower, quality of life arguably even better, and it's just a really great place to raise a family. So we're seeing a ton of growth. They can't build these new homes fast enough, and the existing inventory isn't enough to keep up with the demand. So there's only going to be more opportunity for somebody in my industry to be able to, again, capitalize on all of this really great, growth in customer base. So it just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm certainly biased. I don't know if the listeners know this, but I grew up the first 20 years of my life just one or two counties over from you in Northern California. Yeah. So I'm familiar with the area and just the room that there is for sprawl, pushing away from Sacramento, pushing out from the Bay Area, especially as you go north, which is where you are. You're north of Sacramento. So it sounds like it was a geographical search mainly that brought you to this one. And then doing your due diligence and everything, it seemed to be a right fit for what you were looking for. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Had you ever heard of Made in the Shade before the search, or this kind of franchise?
No. And again, I don't have any experience in custom window coverings, right? At all. And I'm fortunate that I was able to, again, we talk about, do you go out and build it from scratch, or do you go into the franchise model? And I am fortunate that I decided to pursue the franchise model because it's established. There is a ton of support, especially with this franchise. It is still a family-owned franchise. I've got the cell phone of the CEO, who is phenomenal. The franchise itself started in 2004. Unfortunately, the original founder passed away a couple of years ago, right before I took over. But her son, who was a teenager when she basically started this whole, franchise, was there with her and opened up his own franchise location, but has now taken over as CEO. And he has done a ton to reinvest into the franchise model. So it was a perfect time to step into this franchise and be able to take advantage of all of the reinvestment that's taking place. And it's just so supportive.
Yeah.
So I benefit from that as not having any experience in the industry.
Yeah, I want to make it clear to the audience that franchises are not just McDonald's and Subways. There are non-food there are plenty of them out there. I mean, I've had an episode with a franchise broker whose specific job is placing franchises with interested buyers. A fellow accountant in early 90s bought into an accounting franchise. So the model is out there. Was it specific? I mean, were you drawn specifically to the franchise model when you were looking, or did you also look at other like brick and mortar independent businesses, considering your skills and everything like that when you were searching?
Yeah, I didn't know exactly what type of business per se I wanted to take on. A little bit more background. I actually launched an Amazon storefront for a couple of different reasons. One is I just wanted to know what is it like to actually open a business in the state of California. I opened it when I was in San Jose, And you, at that point, all the different videos about how easy it is to generate, passive income, opening up an Amazon storefront. And I learned that that is obviously not the case. That's a volume play, right? You got to buy in bulk and you got to hold a ton of inventory because the margins are so small on most of the items that are being sold on Amazon. But it was a great learning experience for me. So it taught me that's not what I want to pursue. I was also, sometimes I forget these things because, again, I was just looking at so many different opportunities. I was also at the last interview to acquire an Amazon last mile delivery business.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're familiar with it.
These are private vehicles they're not the big trucks or anything, but they take them from a private location to the houses.
They are actually. So last mile delivery is the product gets to the Amazon warehouse and then they need to get the actual product to somebody's home. For a long time, Amazon was doing that on its own, but then realized that they needed to scale their delivery capabilities much, much faster and bigger. So they created this program called Amazon IBO, Independent Business Owner, or DSP, Delivery Service Partner, where you would essentially become an operator of a delivery route. And they were giving out basically a $10,000 grant to start up your DSP business with Amazon. So you're not an actual employee of Amazon, you are an independent contractor of Amazon. But the problem was that they were looking for operators that were going to be at their warehouse from basically 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. to run these routes. Well, that was counter to what I wanted, which was to actually be involved in my community. I can't really do that if I'm having to be at the warehouse, overlooking all of the operations of the delivery route. I got a chance to job shadow somebody, and that individual was phenomenal at what he did. And because of that, I realized like this is not for me. Like I can't pursue this. Although it might be very lucrative, at the end of the day, I am not going to be fulfilled in that role. So again, just looking and happened to stumble across this particular listing, and it checked all of my boxes, and that's why I pursued it, and I stopped looking for obviously other business models out there.
Gotcha. Okay. So I was going to ask leading into this, why did you choose to buy an existing franchise from an owner trying to get out versus just opening a new one with the model? But it sounds like through the acquisition process, you didn't know about this franchise company, and it was specifically this one being listed. What do you think, looking back, what do you think are some of the benefits? And then we'll get into some of the drawbacks of buying an existing franchise license or franchise from an owner trying to get out versus just starting fresh with a company.
Yeah. And again, I've said this before, but people do business with who they know, like, and trust. And as I learned more about this particular business, I did my due diligence, not just from a business valuation perspective, but more importantly, the reputation that this business had in the community. So I was on Google trying to find out what kind of reviews are posted for this business. What are people saying? Same thing on Yelp. And not surprising that both platforms have it rated as 5 stars.
Great.
So 5-star rated. To this day, we take a ton of pride in that because that is where, again, your referrals are going to come in. Somebody is going to continue to be a customer of yours because of the experience that they've had. So the prior owners really laid out a very strong foundation for us to be able to build on and continue to deliver outstanding customer service. And that to me was extremely important in, do I acquire something or do I try to build that out on my own? So being able to actually take something that already had a really well-established, reputation in the community was something that you can't easily just replicate, right? Because it takes years to be able to build out that kind of goodwill in the community.
Yeah, gotcha. So this existing owner had a reason for selling, but it wasn't like they were distressed and failing and trying to get out from under under this fee or
No,
anything like that. So that's good.
no. Yeah, and I'll share with you that's where my experience in the corporate world really made a lot of sense, right? So I described my experience in the corporate world in three ways. I, you know, really developed a strong executive leadership set of skills, talent acquisition, and sales management. So if I were to describe to you what my particular role is within this business, it's twofold. It's being the CEO, right? I set the strategy, long-term goals, and everything that a CEO does for an organization. And the second is CRO, which is a Chief Revenue Officer. So I am going to be in charge of all of the business development activities, getting our name out there, digital marketing, advertising. I don't do any of the design consultations. I don't do any of the installation. What I've learned from established, successful businesses is that you find the right people, you put them in the right spots, and you let them go out and do what they do best. So I'm very fortunate that I've got a team that goes out and delivers on our promises, which is to provide a great customer experience where we're helping a customer choose the best product for them, and then an amazing installation team that goes out and makes sure that the product looks like what it should have, or should rather, right? When you're looking at what the product was going to do in your home, and our installation team, our lead installer, always goes above and beyond. He does a little bit more than he should, right? So he does a little bit of touch up with paint, he'll patch up things because he just really cares about doing an outstanding job. And that's, again, my job, right? Go out, find the right people to help make this business successful.
Gotcha. How much of that already existed when you acquired the business as far as teams in the field, recurring revenue, deals in the pipeline, all that kind of stuff versus, and we'll get into where you've grown it eventually, but I'm trying to get an
Yeah.
idea on the value of what you were buying here too.
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned in this industry is that the prior structure that was in place here is very common, and that is for it to be a husband-wife duo. The wife goes out and does all of the design consultations, will help customers choose the product, and then the husband will do all of the installation, right? So he'll be the one that'll go out and make sure that everything fits the way it should. And I basically had to hire all new people because it was a husband-wife duo. And part of the reason why they wanted to sell the business was that the wife in particular wasn't able to scale the business in the way that she wanted to, right? She wasn't having great luck with hiring, the right sales consultants, wasn't able to hire the right, office administration, support, and was stuck working in the business and was not able to work on the business.
Hard to replicate her eye for design and ability to communicate with clients and the systems needed then, sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whereas you came in as an executive who knows how to run the back office of a business, they were very much technicians, interior designers, construction, all that kind of stuff that goes into this, that had bought a franchise that fit what their experience was then.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely correct.
How much leverage or how much wiggle room did you have as the acquirer to work with the business owners to set the valuation of the buyout of this thing? How much of that was directed by the higher level? What were the metrics that were looked at for the acquisition?
Yeah, it was a multitude of variables, I'd say, factors. I did take out an SBA loan, an SBA 7A loan. So the valuation wasn't so much my doing or really anybody else's, except for the lenders who brought in and did a formal business valuation, right? So from there, we worked on what the actual purchase price would be based on what they see. So there was obviously some negotiation for the most part, but really it was their putting together that business valuation that allowed us the ability to be able to acquire it at a fair price.
I imagine, did you have to go through training with Made in the Shade in order to get approved leading up to the valuation? Or how much earn out, how much did they have to stick around talk to me a little bit about the transition here.
Yeah, definitely training was expected of me before I formally took over the business itself, and that was a week of training down in San Antonio, which is where the home office is headquartered out of, and had a really great experience. I learned a ton, and again, I was able to make some really great personal relationships with the CEO and some of the other home office staff. It's grown since then, just to support all of the different functions that are now available to us as franchise owners. And the prior owners were just great, and they stuck around to help with the transition of the installation team as I brought on new people, and the transition of the design consultants as I brought some people on, and being able to help us with the systems, the quoting systems, telling us about all the different contacts, within the different vendors that we would be doing business with, and helping us with, calls that they were getting because the, prior customers had their personal phone numbers, and they're still available to me to this day. The prior owner is now in financial planning and wealth management, and she's getting involved in the community as well. So I do see her from time to time at different networking events. So she's still, a member of the community, and we do still keep in touch. But they were great in that transitional period. We didn't have any specific, you have to stay on board for at least 90 days. She was very clear. I will make myself available to you for as long as you need me, and make sure that I can be as much of an asset for you during this transition time.
Okay. And how long did that end up taking?
September, I'd say November, December-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So within 90 days, then it was fully
just about
transferred over. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, made themselves available to us even after that. I mean, I still get messages from her about, hey, so-and-so just reached out to me asking for, some help on a, product we sold them. Like, great, appreciate that. But the great thing is that, again, with the home office support, anything that we may have gone to her for, now that we know exactly, how to operate the business itself, we're going to home office for some of that additional help.
Gotcha. Okay. So it was a husband and wife team. Does that mean that the team was 2 people when you bought the company, or did they have like another 2 or 3?
Installation was husband, and there was another member of the family that was pitching in on a very limited part-time basis, right? Whenever there was maybe a larger job, he'd come in and he'd help out with, just some of the staging and some of the cleanup and things of that nature, but, not full-time. And then they also hired a part-time administrative staff person, but her availability during the week was limited. It was very part-time, just really taking phone calls and trying to do as much as she could to help with some of the, again, administrative functions. But really, it was, the husband and wife that were the core of how the business itself ran and grew for the entire time that they owned it.
I hope that you've enjoyed part 1 of my discussion with Brando Guerrero. We have new episodes featuring business owners with their own succession stories twice every month. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can find the link for that down in the description below. As we pick up in part 2 of our discussion, we're going to wrap up the acquisition process and then hear about all of the challenges that Brando grew through as he stepped into his role of owner and entrepreneur. And you can find that episode linked right here. If you've enjoyed this episode, I ask that you please share it with someone else. And I want to thank you for watching The Art of Succession.